At this time, I'm going to call to order the Town of Florence Planning and Zoning Commission scheduled for July 18th at 6 p.m. Mr. Ogeen, can you take roll, please?
I'm going to have Mr.
Okay.
Reed do it for us tonight.
Chairman Woolley,
Present.
Vice Chair Patrick, Commissioner Petty, Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Reed.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Next agenda item for this evening will be the discussion, approval, or disapproval of the minutes for the regular meeting conducted on March 7th of 2013. Has everybody had a chance to look at these minutes? Do I have any corrections or questions about these minutes? If there's no questions or corrections on these minutes, I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes that's presented here tonight for the March 7th, 2013 meeting. Second.
Can't hear you, gentlemen. Speak into your mics. Make sure they're on.
There are newer mics, guys, so you gotta bring them closer.
Okay.
I have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes as presented this evening. The motion was made by Commissioner Anderson and seconded by Commissioner Reed. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Those minutes have been approved. The next agenda item for this evening will be 5A. This is on case number PZC 01-13- zone change. This is a presentation, discussion, and a recommendation of a zone change request to change the existing zoning on the subject property from rural agricultural RA10, single residential ranchette R1R, public institution PI, and planned urban development PUD to Territorial Square. The Territorial Square project is generally located along the side of Gila River between Plant Road and the alignment of Highway 79. Mr. Ogeen, you're going to do a presentation on this?
Yes, I will. Before we start, I want to welcome all the guests that came out tonight. Appreciate it. We have some property owners here. That property is actually displayed up there in front of you. Take me a minute to get used to the fact that you can see the screen. We're used to showing it from the side. Anyways, I want to once again thank you all for coming out. Appreciate all the cooperation that we've had. Tonight, this project is a Territory Square zone change. The actual ordinance itself and the details of what the zoning actually is detailed in this book, which was approved last year by council and also adopted. So tonight, I'm not going to go into detail as far as what the zoning is exactly. I'll cover some of it, but not all of it. Keep in mind, took us about 6 months to put the document together with the help of Swabic Partners, and it's very intense. It's a hybrid type of zoning called like a smart code. Anyways, tonight we're here to focus on the zone change and actually get a recommendation, if that's the direction the commission wants to go in, to implement the zoning. Now, as you mentioned before, the idea here tonight is to change it from rural agricultural, which is RA10, single-family residential ranchette, public institutional PI, and planned unit development to the Territory Square zoning district. To give you some background on how this project started, this North End Framework Vision Plan started back 2010. The idea was to try to figure out a doable solution on, of course it's not working, hang on. Here we go. Anyways, the idea was to figure out how to take all this acreage here, which is about 260 acres of land that was in the floodplain, and make it buildable. The screen, it's in front of you on your screens. Oh, okay. So anyways, I tried to put these black lines in place to show you pretty much the whole parameter of the property, 260 plus acres, 223 actually, I'm sorry, gross acres. Now, of all that acreage, there's about 229 which is going to remain riverfront or open space. The majority of that property is here to the north. That would leave us with about 394 acres of buildable land, which would possibly give us about, at minimum, 650 dwelling units and as many as 2,100 dwelling units at maximum build-up. In the book, it breaks down as far as what the acreage is, what all the acreage is. I think there's an image in here that kind of shows you that right here. This breaks it down in detail as to all this property here being buildable and all this property here to the north, the 138 and the 91 acres being riverfront or open space. And these areas here are different categories from commercial all the way to different types of densities. Now, as I mentioned, and it's also in your staff report, that back many years ago, the town conducted a facility needs study, which we were wanting to utilize property to the north. The town has actually several acres that we own to the north, but once again, a lot of it's in the floodplain. We can't build on it. So we did the study to see if we could partner up with the county and possibly have some facilities out in this area. Now, we realized that we had to come up with a solution or some type of plan to get our property out of the floodplain, if it was even possible. We partnered up with several different property owners, which some of them are here tonight, and we found out that through our vision plan, which is this document here, which was approved May 25th, 2011, this basically gave the story as to how this would work. And once again, it shows that it's possible to build up on some of these properties here to the south, to build them up, get them out of the floodplain, and make them buildable again. Some of the major property holders, obviously the town of Florence being one of the biggest, but we also have Heritage Square, which is property located right off of 79, and that's owned by the London Company. We also have Florence Farms, which is Harold Chris, who owns the property off to this side. Guy Rankin is here tonight, or he was here. There he is. He's here tonight. He owns some property that's located by Harold Chris. And Mr. Sheridan also owns property real close to ours, right about in this area. And if I missed somebody, I do apologize. So once we put together the idea that we were going to move forward with this vision plan, we needed to justify some of the reasons why this would be possible to spend money to make this vision plan work. And one of the main factors in that was the north-south ADOT corridor. This is a corridor that possibly, if built, would come from the US 60 from the north coming all the way to the south. It would come into Florence and leave Florence towards Coolidge and then go south from there. When that corridor comes through, it's going to put us in a position where a lot of this area is going to be extremely valuable and we're going to need it to build on. So that was one of the main reasons that the town spent the time and the money, several years, to put the vision plan together. The vision plan ultimately led to what you see tonight, which is this Territory Square zoning district. Now, keep in mind, there's still several steps to make this happen, but tonight, and like I said, I won't go into too much detail. The zoning district is already in place, and it's broken up into different segments. Like I said, we have commercial frontage off of here. We've got different densities throughout here, and so the whole thing's broken up. Of the 600 acres, like I said, there's almost 400 acres that are still buildable once this is done. The town's moving forward with a FEMA LOMAR, which is a conditional letter of map revision. At least for our site right now, we're moving forward. We'd like to get the 40 acres that the town has possibly in position to build on within 2 years. A lot of work to move forward. There's also some development going on here off of Harold Chris's property. But people have asked me before, how long is it going to take to see this project build out? It could be, we're moving on it now, but as far as all the major commercial coming to some of these areas, you're talking as soon as 5 years, possibly sooner, and it could take as long as 10 years, maybe even a little longer. But now that the actual ordinance is in place, tonight we're asking for recommendation to forward it to council to implement this, to put this in place. So we're ready for when all the large development comes into town. I wanted to cover a few more things. The town also had to work with all the owners to put in some 207 waivers because we're changing their zoning. It's pretty standard when it comes to zone changes. But so far, we were successful in, with the majority of those property owners. And as mentioned before, the staff recommends that you forward a favorable recommendation to council on this zone change. Have any specific questions for me? I'd be happy to answer them. Anything about the document, I'd be happy to answer them. This is a public hearing, so we're going to need to open the public hearing.
I'm going to take it to public hearing first, then we'll come back to questions for staff. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing on case number PZC 01-13-zone change on the Territorial Square zone change. Public hearing is now open. Do I have anybody from the public that would like to speak? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Commissioner Woolley and members of the commission, thank you for this opportunity to address you. I'm Lene Austin, and I live at 224 East First Street, and my backyard would abut this project. I did serve for 1 year on the North End Framework Visioning Committee. I gave a year of public service to that, and during that entire time, the houses up to the edge of First Street were included. Imagine my shock when I see this particular image where they have cut out all of the residences down First Street. They will not be buying them. They won't extend the property that far. So I am here today to gather information and ask for a little bit of education from you, Commissioner Woolley, before I go into a slow burn. I'm sorry. I'd like to know what's going to happen there. Are they going to put an 8-foot wall in my backyard? Do I get to change my zoning? Will I be able to sell my property to these people? Are they interested in having a pass-through opening to that project on First Street? Is my property value going to plummet to nothing because of this project? And what legal rights do I have this is where I'd like your education, Commissioner. What legal rights would I have to do if myself and a bevy of my neighbors object to this?
Actually, at this point, what I would have to do is refer you to town staff because you're going to a point where we'd have to get town staff involved and some of the other key personnel that are involved in this project, because those questions are way above what.
Well, then
we
I
be
would
able to do.
request that you delay voting on this, that you table it. What is the urgency? We were just given notification 2 weeks ago. Does that allow time for any of us to sell our properties? What are you going to put behind our backyard? I will no longer have a view of the superstitions, and I don't have a right to that view, but I have a right to not have an extreme drop in my property value. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have something, Mr. Hogan?
When I go back, I'll
Okay.
talk about that.
Do I have any more public that would like to speak at this time? Is there any more public that would like to speak at this time? If I have no more public that would like to speak at this time, I will close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed, and I'll open it up to the commission. Mr. O'Gean, did you want to go ahead?
I just want to cover a quick point. I see there's a little bit of confusion, and I do apologize. I wanted to just keep in mind that tonight, all the property owners that own property in front of you are aware of this. And they have approved and signed letters of permission for us to do this. We're not, the property owners that are here tonight, a few of them, the one that was just up here right now, I believe her property is in the white, and it's adjacent to it. We're not changing her property. We're technically changing the property behind her. It's no different than a home being up against commercial property in Anthem, where the property was zoned for commercial, and eventually the commercial would come after several years of the homes being there. The same thing is going on here, but in this case, the area, I believe that's the properties that are located off of, at least these up here is where you're going to have a little more intense commercial, possibly, and then there'll be some density in some commercial in this area here, but we're not proposing to change any of the white portions of property, or the people that receive letters tonight. They received letters either because they were a property owner and they're being asked to if they'd like to participate in tonight's meeting, or number two, they received a letter because they're within 300 feet of this property being rezoned. Now, Like I said, we have letters from all the owners that were involved in this project, except for there's one right here, but the rest of them, we have all the letters with their approval to move forward on this. And once again, the zoning is being created.
Right, and correct me if I'm wrong, even if we did do the zoning change tonight, we're still looking at development that's quite a ways out.
Yes.
And anybody who decides to develop in this particular area that's in question, it's not like they can just come in and build their Walmart and put up a 12-foot security wall.
Right, yes,
We're
sir.
gonna go through a process, we're gonna say, no, it has to be landscaped,
And-
it has to have buffers.
Yes, and there's a
Okay.
possibility to accommodate certain commercial users. They may want to amend this.
Right.
Pretty common, they'll come in, especially the commercial users, may say, well, because this is a smart code, form-based code, it's a little more specific as to what size of properties can go in there. And they may want to amend it, which is pretty common. As far-
If a developer came in, would the landowners for that specific spot that's in question have any, I mean, I'm not taking any sides here. What I'm trying to do is say that what prevents a two-story building from going in up against them? They obviously live where they live because they enjoy that spot. They have beautiful views. What's their protection if we do that tonight? What's their protection that we approve commercial development right there, that we're not just shutting them down?
Tonight's meeting is a recommendation,
Right.
and they're going to have another public hearing in 2 weeks in front of council, then an action meeting. The public is more than welcome to come to the town council meeting where they'll have the public hearing, they'll listen to everybody's comments. At that point in time, if there is a lot of concern, a lot of issues, and their questions aren't addressed from that point to the meeting, then the owners can come to us and we can start talking to council and saying there's a lot of concern, maybe we need to push this back. But we wanted to have this meeting now. We're not trying to rush it. Like I said, this project's been sitting for, we
Almost a
finished
year.
last year. Typically, once it's been created, it gets implemented within 3 months. We waited about a year to move this forward. So there's not a rush on our part. But as the market is starting to show signs of improvement, we want to be ready for when that development comes. But tonight's meeting, we'll take all the comments. We can sit down with any of the public that has concerns and try to address their comments one-on-one if they like at our offices. And they're also welcome to have their concern at the next meeting coming up for council. That's what the meetings are designed for.
Correct. I have a couple more for you too. You talked about a 207 waiver on some of these properties, and that it will change their current zone by making a recommendation tonight. It would change their current zoning of their current properties. I'm trying to think of how to word this. What does that do to their property? Does that put them under territorial square?
The 207 waiver is, that prop was passed several years ago, and we've come up, not just us, I should say, several of the entities, towns and cities have come up with 207 waivers, basically a form saying that, look, we're not devaluing, or we're not taking away the value for your property, which what 207 was designed for. And they agreed to that we're not trying to make it less of a property, but this should actually put it in a better position for development.
Let me reword my question then.
So not devaluing.
Let's take an R1R, a current one of the properties that's currently an R1R. If we forward this to town council decides to do it, that property now becomes a TS, correct?
Yes.
Okay. My question is, under the TS's zone, there's a multitude of things that property can now do, correct?
Well, in your case, most residential components are in most cases going to stay residential. So
Right.
just because we take away the R1R or the R16, whatever it may be, well, in this case, it's R1R, it's I think it's R10. We're trying to give it zoning, in most cases, that is compatible to that, or comparable to that. That's the way this was designed. Most of this property here in the front already had a PD under it. It was already
Right.
zoned for commercial. Once again, the majority of this frontage is looking at intense commercial.
Right.
And same with the rest of the property that's in there. It's TS now, yes, but there's an entire district. And this book breaks down where the densities are at, where the commercial properties are at, and what areas are actually zoned open space.
Okay, so what you're saying then is just because we're changing it from an R1R or a current residential code to a territorial square, 5 years from now, this place is booming out here, and Mr. Sheridan decides, you know what? I don't want to live here anymore. I'm going to open up a store in this house. He cannot do it, correct?
I haven't looked at his specific property in this
Right.
booklet.
I'm
but-
just using him as
yes.
an example
But more
tonight.
than likely, what happens in this case is Mr. Sheridan would sell his property to a developer, and then they would develop it per these rules.
Okay,
And keep in mind, all of the owners that own the property here, except one in particular that is not part of this tonight, all of the owners are in agreement with this. They were with us through the process to develop.
and I'm not saying that. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, I'm really concerned that the territorial square code is opening up a series of properties that we aren't going to have control over. I'm not worried about what builds inside the North End District. I'm worried about the ones that we're going to change that are sitting just on the outskirts of it, that are part of this zone change
Well,
tonight.
no.
What's the town's
No.
protection?
Well, so just let me clarify.
Okay,
All of the property owners that we talk about in this territory square, they're aware of this. There's not any that are being pulled into this.
right,
We have some concern tonight along some of the property owners off of First Street
right.
that are worried, they are worried because of what may happen behind them. And as I told you earlier, staff would be happy to talk to them, but we went through almost a 3-year process talking about different possibilities, having consultants sit down with staff and with the public, several forums, several open meetings, public hearings, to let them put in their input on what they wanted to see and how they want to see this area develop. All that input was taken. We had large group sessions in these rooms and also in the fire station offices talking about how they wanted this to develop. So this
No,
isn't something
and
that
I'm
the
getting
town...
that. Maybe I'm not saying how I want to say this. The territorial square, we're changing somebody's current house to a territorial square code, okay?
Right, but what I'm trying
My
to-
concern is, 5 years from now, when this, let's say it takes off,
Mm-hmm.
5 years from now, what protection does the town have from the person that owns that property from just turning it into a store? Because they can now do it under
If-
territorial square.
If the zoning allows it now, they can do it in 5 years. If this doesn't allow it, they can't do it in 5
Okay,
years.
that's what I'm trying to get
So
at.
this is the protection they have, is this document, no different than our B2 commercial. Consider this like a B2 commercial or even a residential zoning. That's what this is.
Okay,
We called it something different for the north part of Florence, but this is being looked at separate because it's in a floodplain. And now we have the possibility through engineering to get it out, portions of it out of the floodplain.
Okay.
So this is the protection that you have. This documents, on all the sections, you see it there in the different colors, they call them transects. It actually breaks down exactly what can happen in each of these different colored areas,
that's what I wanted to hear.
down to almost helping say in these areas where there's commercial, you can do some large box, and these you cannot. It's real specific. Unlike traditional zoning, this is a hybrid. This has a lot more control and a lot more direction to the developer, and it gives the town more control as to the type of project, the type of homes, the type of businesses we want to the north of us. So that's where your protection will be at.
Okay. My last question is, and you may not have the answer for this, I don't know. When Miss Austin stood up and started her thing, she's claimed that at the beginning, the owners on First Street were involved in the process. But for some reason, they were dropped out of the process. Do we know why that was? Why would they ask them to be part of it and have them encourage them to take part and be in it, and then all of a sudden we're...
In the vision plan, it was open to the public.
Okay.
When you talk about someone's specific property, there was a notice that was put in the paper. I want to say that we followed the public process for having the actual code amendment, which is a little different than when you're talking about actually rezoning the property. When you're rezoning a property, you actually have to do a 300-foot notice for everybody around you. That's not necessarily the case in a code amendment. when you create new code for the book. You still have to put ads in the paper and follow certain state statutes, but it doesn't always involve the public. But as far as what was required by law, we covered all that and then some. We're not trying to run this through. We're not trying to do this in a hurry. We are always open for any comments, any questions. We encourage anybody tonight that has concerns to come see us on Monday. We will sit down with you, show you what's been done as far as for the code amendment. But as far as the vision plan before Territory Square was created and adopted, we had years of public meetings to try to get the word out that, hey, we're trying to get this area, make it more buildable. We want your input.
Okay, thank you. Do it, commissioners?
Yeah, my question is very similar to yours. Is the concern, is the people on First Street, do they want to be part of the territory plan?
They're not part of the territory plan, sir.
Do they want to be?
Well, in the case of the property owner, just the one that's right behind it, it sounds like she's not convinced that this is going to be a positive move forward for her. I've had several calls during the weekend last week on people that just don't understand what it meant. So in her case, I don't want to speak for her, but I've had some positive comments from some of the property owners that live up in this area over here that were just wondering, what is this and how does it work? And we sat down with them, explained to them, showed them the maps, showed them the potential what could go in there. Once again, this isn't going to happen tomorrow. We're talking 5 years at best, possibly 15 years, 10 to 15 years. Even then, it could take longer. We're just trying to get the property ready when the development comes, with permission from all the owners. So they're not, once again, they're not part of this zone change, but they were notified because they're within 300 feet.
When were they notified?
We're required to get notices out 16 days prior. Now, we did that. We sent out over 100 letters to all the property owners we have a list of everybody who was notified. Some of those, almost all those went out. I think a few did bounce back due to some minor issues, but we follow state statute, which requires us to send out, to actually post the property within the 16 days, get the letters out, and also get an ad in the paper. So all that's going to be given to council. We always do that for every zone change to prove that we did follow state statutes and also town policy. We never want to do these zone changes without following, without following what the statutes are, but we go above and beyond what the statutes are as far as public notification. We want to make sure everybody knows.
Do you have any further questions from any commissioners?
But us approving this tonight, does it go to council or?
Can't hear you, sir?
He's asking, tonight we recommend, and we fully recommend it, or a non-favorable. Council will have to hear another public hearing, and then they'll make the decision whether the zone change goes through.
Okay, so these people who object to it will have another
They
chance?
have another opportunity to address the town council before it's actually truly voted.
Okay. Okay.
And talk to staff. Which, Mr. O'Dean, would you please make sure that you follow this awesome list?
Absolutely. Just to clarify, another public hearing is scheduled at the next town council meeting, and then there's another meeting that they will have, they'll open the floor. You can comment then again if you're still against it.
So there's
for.
two possible meetings still
Yes,
pending.
one public hearing
before it votes.
still after this one, and
Okay.
another chance to speak at the council. And, as you said before, also to speak to staff.
Okay. I did have one other question I forgot to ask you. Did we get any correspondence from anybody? Usually on cases like this, you get letters or anything like that. Was there no correspondence sent in at all?
We had, I want to say, I personally had three different property owners that were concerned. This was the first one that came to us that I'm aware of that had serious concerns, but the rest of them listened to us. We sat down with them, spent time with them, and they were in favor afterwards. Matter of fact, one of the ladies that I spoke with, a property owner that's right in front of the red area over there, closer to First Street and 79, she just wants a copy of the actual book that shows the zoning. So,
I guess I'd like to see those objections, those letters.
no,
There's no letters.
there's no letters of, this would, if I misspoke, I apologize. We only had 3 people that came to us that were in favor, that I'm aware of. We had no letters of objection. If we
They
did,
actually came to you, they didn't.
right, if we have anything, any letters of protest, they always go in the packets. And even if they happen the day before the meeting or the night of the meeting, we make copies and get them to you. So we don't have anything to give you.
That's what I thought you were supposed to do. You don't do
Yeah,
that.
we don't have anything. Like I said,
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion or questions? If there's no further questions or discussion, I will take a motion on this case.
I'll make a motion that we forward a favorable recommendation regarding case PZC-1-13-CC to town council.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion on the floor to forward a favorable recommendation on case number PZC 01-13- zone change to the town council. The motion this evening was made by Commissioner Petty and seconded by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor of forwarding a favorable recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please forward a favorable recommendation on case number PZC 01-13- zone change to the town council.
just for record, may staff do a roll call vote?
Do you want a roll call vote?
Yeah, can I go
that's
ahead and
fine.
do? Okay. Commissioner Anderson, yes or no? Yes. Commissioner Petty?
Yes.
Chairman Woolley?
No.
Vice Chair Reed, I'm sorry, Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Yes. That's what we wanted. Thank you.
Next agenda item for this evening will be agenda item number 6. This is the call to the public for commission response. Call to the public for public comments on issues within the jurisdiction of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Individual commission members may respond to criticism made, may ask staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. At this time, the call to the public is now open. Do I have anybody from the public that would like to speak at this time? Do I have anybody from the public that would like to speak at this time? With the absence of the public, I will close the call to the public. Call to the public is now closed, and I will open up the call to the commission. Commissioner Anderson,
Nothing.
Commissioner Petty,
I have nothing.
Commissioner Reed.
No.
With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 8, which is adjournment, and we will adjourn this meeting at 6:34. This meeting is now adjourned.